I'm just gonna come out and say it. There's something about Leon Edwards that I find to be extremely annoying. I understand that he's a fighter and that alone deserves a level of respect, but the way he thinks, views himself, and operates just really gets on my nerves, because even though he tends to present himself as a reserved and humble guy, he has an underlying air of arrogance about him that is very irritating. And watching him get humbled by Sean Brady over the weekend was one of the most satisfying sights to come out of the UFC in recent memory. And I personally felt vindicated when Brady confirmed Leon's snooty attitude after the fight.
He said something, he was asking me about my height, and I was like, he was like, how tall are you, 5'8", 5'9"? Like, he was being a dickhead. And I was like, I'm 5'9", and I was like, what are you 6'2"? I was like, you got those big shoes on, like, just making a joke of it. And then we faced off for legit 5 seconds, walked off. I don't know if it's his manager, his brother, like, and him were like, oh, this is super awkward. And me and my team looked at him like, yo, you're in London, like, this is your fight week, like, you're about having to do some media. Like, I'm respectful. Like, GSP's my favorite fighter, always respected, guys, but when you're an asshole like that, like, don't, like, I can give it right back. So personally, Leon, him and his whole team, and that's how I feel about the whole situation.
Watching this out of context may seem like Sean Brady is being a sensitive short king over a harmless joke, but it wasn't what was said, but rather how and why. And having watched Edwards for a while now, it was clear to me that it was his attitude that got on Sean's nerves and not the actual words. Because while he made sure to say that he was fully focused on Brady all throughout fight week, his demeanor was of somebody that felt like the result of the fight was a foregone conclusion, and that he was too good to be there, and that he was doing everybody a favor by taking this fight on short notice.
Who cares? You know what I mean? It's not, like I said, it's not about showing this fight for me. It's about me, right? It's me going out there and putting my right wrongs and just perform to the best of my abilities. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's nobody else. There's been no really movement in the welterweight division. You know what I mean? Everyone ain't fighting each other or having fought, or there's not much going on in the welterweight in the division. So I feel like a win over Sean, a good win, just put me right back where I left off.
I understand that the fight was taking place in London, therefore Leon probably felt like he was the reason why everyone was watching, and Sean Brady was just a placeholder opponent that could have been anyone else in the division. But the reality is, his first comeback fight after losing his title was a fight night, and that wasn't on Sean Brady, it was on him. Because even though he likes to pretend like he's this exciting and dynamic striker that everyone is just dying to watch, Leon Edwards is boring in and out of the octagon. And before he knocked out Kamaru Usman with a head kick to win the title, he was mostly known for getting pieced up by Jorge Masvidal backstage, and for almost getting finished by 36-year-old Nate Diaz, who looked like he was hotboxing and doing shots in his car 10 minutes before entering the octagon. And the Usman fight led to him taking on an identity that he simply could never live up to, because landing one head kick does not turn a flawed striker who has trouble with being pressured into prime Mirko Cro Cop, which was a memo that Leon clearly missed, because once that title was around his waist, he was acting like he had the Midas touch, like he was some kind of a money fight for anyone in the UFC, completely dismissing Belal Muhammad even though he was the clear #1 contender, and the backup fighter for his match against Colby Covington at UFC 296.
Nah, there definitely other options, you know. I don't feel like Belal should be next. You know, I've done it before. I've run like 10 fights in a row, didn't get a title shot. So what makes him different?
Say what you will about Belal, but you can't deny that he took the hardest road to the title possible, and even though he doesn't vocalize it, he's not delusional as to why that is. He understands that the UFC didn't want to see him as champion because he's not marketable, and instead of whining about it, he simply grinded until it became awkward not to give him a shot. And Leon, being in the same boat for a long time, should have understood where he was coming from, especially since their first fight ended with a brutal eye poke that almost led to the end of Belal's career. Anybody with an ounce of morals and empathy in that position would have felt like they owed the guy they almost blinded a second chance. But instead, once he got his hands on the title, he acted like he was now a part of the cool kids club, and losers like Belal didn't deserve a fight against him, regardless of whether or not they were objectively the most deserving challenger. It was infuriating to watch, because not only was it unfair, this guy wasn't any more marketable than Belal, and yet here he was acting like he was the second coming of Conor McGregor, and not the three-piece and a soda meme that he was the year prior.
When you look at, you know, his path to the title and the way he did it, it's very similar to mine, right? He had to go the long road. Nobody was respecting him. Nobody gave him a shot. And then I took a fight on short notice against him. and he committed the foul. He injured me, and the fight got stopped because of that. So, you know, there was a lot of, on my end, it was like my first main event. This was supposed to be my spot, my time to shine, this, and this, and it was like taken from me by him. And he wouldn't give me another shot. And then he tried to just play it off like, oh, I would have won anyway. I would have did this anyway. And then when you put that narrative out there, fans are just like, oh, well, he's probably right. So from there on out, I just had it in the back of my mind. I had that bad taste in the back of my head this whole time that, man, I want to feel what would have happened. I want to see what would have happened. And then I'm dominating all these guys, winning all these guys, and then they're still disrespecting my streak. Him, his coach, his team, they're still saying, oh, he's not next. We need somebody else. We need somebody else. We need somebody else. So the disrespect that he had, he felt it. He started giving it to me. So that's what pissed me off. That's what's pushing me to hate the guy. That's what's making me excited to make him bleed, to make him break.
And Belal did break him and had him giving the camera his famous baby deer in the headlights look. But exciting wouldn't be the word that I'd use. To me, it was extremely satisfying to see somebody so full of themselves look like they've seen a ghost when they realize that trying to paint your opponent as a joke doesn't translate into reality like the law of attraction, just like calling yourself Rocky doesn't magically give you heart. And having a title doesn't turn you into a pay-per-view superstar, hence the fight night against Sean Brady. And for what it's worth, as much as Belal hates Leon, he showed a lot more solidarity in the lead up to Leon's third fight against Usman, rooting for him simply because he empathized with how he was being looked over.
Honestly, I'm hoping Leon wins this fight too. You know, Usman's already looking past him, talking about he wants to fight Yuri and Glover already. When guys start thinking about what's next before the guy that's in front of them, I hope that Leon ruins those plans.
What bothers me the most about Leon is that technically he should be likable because he went from being looked over time and time again all the way to winning the title, which on paper constitutes a great comeback story. But he's so desperate to be a headliner that he doesn't even try to hide the fact that he looks down on the fighters that are in the same exact position as he was for the majority of his career. It's like he's disgusted that he even has to associate with them. Just look at his interpretation of his loss to Belal.
Like I said, I'm a worse day. He won one round over me to get a decision, and that's it. You know, I'm no longer focused on that fight, and I'll get it back for sure.
When you see him with the belt now, what do you feel?
Every time I see him on Twitter, I have to say like, why? Because he said to me, if he lost, he would have retired. I was like, oh mate, I wish this guy fucking retired because he's annoying. You know, it's like it doesn't look right on him, the belt. You know what I mean? It just look like, well, like I said, it is what it is. Is what it is.
Notice how dismissive he acts and what he's actually focusing on. It's not the skills, but rather how ridiculous Belal now looks with the belt. And considering that their numbers would probably be very similar had they fought the same opponents, who is he to gatekeep who's a good representative and who isn't? Where is this arrogance coming from? The UFC never wanted him in the title picture either. I understand if this type of rhetoric was coming from a legitimate pay-per-view star, but it's Leon Edwards, the guy that was begging Jorge Masvidal to get in the octagon with him after getting punched in the face because he wanted attention, and got brushed off like a gnat for his efforts because nobody cared. At least Belal had enough dignity to never resort to doing that. Leon has one of the weakest characters I've ever seen from a fighter and takes absolutely no pride in beating the best of his division, instead daydreaming about fitting in with the popular crowd. And let's face it, if he had free reign to do what he really wants, his first title defense would have came against KSI. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like the video if you liked it, and if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell next to it. And if you want to support the channel further, become a member by hitting join if you're on Android or desktop, or the link in the description if you're on iOS.
And what did you mean by he was salty afterward? Like, did he not shake your hand?
Yeah,
or?
like I was just saying, like, yo, you're the man, like whatever. And he was just, obviously he's upset, but like I try to be cool. Like even during the week we did a face off. He was super weird, wouldn't look at me. This is business. Like I don't hate anybody who does this, but yeah, clearly other people feel the same way about him. I've heard some other stuff, so yeah, he was just super salty.